Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cameron Sim. I'm the CEO of CrewSpark. CrewSpark is an application, a data science and project management application where we are attempting to essentially lower the barrier of entry for data science for all organizations. We do that through a cross-pollinated architecture of project management, providing notebook technology, as well as data sets, libraries, project governance, all wrapped in a collaborative setting. Our clients include, obviously, clients in the retail, health, and pharma space, as well as media and clinical research, and obviously rapidly expanding in that space. We're based in New York City. So at CrewSpark, we're trying to answer a couple of really, really important questions. How can we help organizations ensure transparency within data science projects? How does transparency actually happen? So within the realm of data science, with all the slew of technologies and the specialized deep technology that's happening, how do organizations actually adjust and begin to manage those projects? Complementary to that is how do they promote common understanding of data science throughout that organization? As we hire more and more highly technical individuals with specialized skills, how does the rest of the company keep up? How do they upskill? How does the company grow within that influx of new technology? And maybe as a third point, how do we sort of cross-pollinate those skills as well? So we're introducing AI and predictive analytics, but we're also complementing that with how the organization has traditionally run. So it's a challenge for any CEO to be able to manage that and still be productive. Last but not least, it's how do you scale that operations? If you're an organization that you're hiring into data science, perhaps you've hired 1 or 2 data scientists, or maybe 3 or 4. How do you go from 3 or 4 to 30 or 50? That's certainly a challenge where there's no known track record to be able to do that, and certainly a challenge for lots of organizations. After you've solved those challenges, it's ideal to get to a point to be able to measure, well, we have the correct analytics in place, we have the correct measuring and tracking mechanisms in place, so how do we concurrently say who the best data scientist in your organization is? There are many other questions, but that's probably one of them. So what does CrewSpark actually do? I'll move to the demo shortly, but just to frame that discussion, CrewSpark essentially allows an organization to integrate your current analytics capabilities with a project management lifecycle. So at a very basic level, you define a task, you execute on that task, you identify the insights from that task, and then obviously you can take action and then rinse and repeat. So we keep on within that iterative cycle. Part of that is, or complementary to that is, formal methodology in data science. So one of them might be CRISP-BM, Cross-Industry Standard for Process for Data Mining. This is something that we are heavily promoting inside CrewSpark. So this was taken from Wikipedia, and a very quick demonstration of what that really is in a diagrammatical sense. Now I'll switch to the demonstration. I can show you how we're solving these problems within CrewSpark. So let's shift. So within CrewSpark, we have I think a traditional project management sense. We have sort of projects, the sense of notebooks. Well, projects, notebooks, and data sets, essentially. So what we're essentially trying to allow is for companies to be able to define projects within their own ecosystem, similar to what you would do in, say, using Jira. So the idea being that you can define a project, and again, we promote the methodologies that I mentioned before, CRISP-BM, as well as KDD and SEMA. So these are well-known methodologies or emerging methodologies in data science, and we're actively helping organizations build data science projects around that methodology. Once you're able to create a project, it looks much like an Agile project, but what makes us a little different is that you can deep link notebooks from within a project plan. So you can essentially assign a task to an engineer or a data scientist. You can deep link to a notebook. You have the ability to fire up a notebook across a different slew of different technologies, in this case Python or R. And we're able to support different notebooks, so we pre-can notebooks with the required libraries that you need, or a data scientist needs, to be able to solve that particular data science issue. If you're doing image processing, or k-means analysis, or XGBoost, et cetera. So we're always supporting new technologies, but right out of the bat, this is what we support. We're also providing the ability to upload your own notebook, so you can really curate your environment to be able to collaborate across the project ecosystem. So let's dive into a notebook just quickly and show you what else CrewSpark is doing to complete that sort of iterative lifecycle. So we've enabled the ability to define a project. You can deep link a notebook from within that project. And within CrewSpark, we actually support the ability to execute Python and R code just as you would in a notebook session, a Jupyter session. So once this executes, and I'll just wait for the lag. So once this notebook executes, we've actually rebuilt the Jupyter UI for a very specific reason. So we can actually manipulate the artifacts that get created within the notebook to the certain extent that then they're reusable. So we can link these artifacts, they might be graphs or images or data sets, et cetera, and link them all the way back to the project. So if in this case, I maybe I think this is interesting, I want to create an insight, I want to send this to my marketing manager, or maybe to send it to Slack, or however an organization collaborates, then this is certainly a tool I can use. So just imagine for a second that I've gone and done that, and I've saved that insight, because it's definitely interesting for us, and will help us track back to the original ask. What you actually end up with is a series of what might look like a Pinterest for data science, so the ability to see graphs and charts without all the code and without all the logic, but what you do have is, what did we ask for, how did we solve it, Python, R, or whatever else technology was involved, and what was the outcome? So what is the insight? So you're able to then curate those insights, we can push that into a PDF, and you can format those results, et cetera. So that's what we're attempting trying to implement within CrewSpark. So there are a number of other innovations that we're working on. Obviously, CrewSpark is free from a SaaS perspective, but you can also download it from an enterprise license perspective. You can run it entirety within your own organizations, and we connect to HDFS, S3, and all of the other common data science solutions. We're also supporting things like model deployment straight from Notebook. So in the same way that I showed or demonstrated how you might get a graph or a piece of data set, and you can save that back to the project, you would also be able to deploy a function from a notebook behind a RESTful APIs and then be able to test it. So we'll provide analytics on that as well. And that is really it. So that's CrewSpark is obviously always evolving, but those are the areas, and that's how we think we're trying to solve the collaborative nature of data science. A few more things that I forgot to share is that you can obviously swap between teams within data science. So if you're working within a large organization, you can democratize your how you build out your teams, or how you build out your organization through. If you're in a bank, it might be derivatives or pricing, et cetera. Maybe you have an HR team that is also working in data science, so it allows you to move projects between those teams, as well as operate at a private, a team, and actually a global level. So you can move your assets around. So thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening to me. And if you have any questions, by all means, give us a shout out at info@crewspark.com, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much, O'Reilly.